Hey there, 8th grade learners, and welcome to This Explainer. Have you ever, read a book and just felt totally lost in its world? Almost like you were actually living it alongside the characters? Well, that magic, it's definitely no accident. It's the result of what we call the artisan's craft. So today, we're going to uncover the specific, secret tools that authors use to make their stories richer, deeper, and completely unforgettable.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Imagine you sit down to eat and someone hands you a plate of completely unseasoned boiled potatoes. I mean, pretty bland, right? Just kind of flat. Well, a story without literary devices is exactly the same. It's really just a flat list of events. But think about when a master chef adds spices, a little pinch of salt, some roasted garlic, maybe a sprig of fresh rosemary. Suddenly, the food just explodes with flavor. Literary devices are basically the essential spices of writing. They're the exact tools an author uses to bring a story to life, turning a basic, boring recipe of words into this vibrant, delicious feast for your imagination.
And using these storytelling tools is actually a totally time-tested historical way to make messages really resonate. For example, Matthew chapter 13, verse 34 notes that Jesus spoke to the crowd in parables and actually didn't say anything to them without using one. A parable is just a brilliant use of storytelling devices. By using relatable stories and really vivid comparisons, he was able to teach these incredibly complex divine ideas in a way that people could easily digest, remember, and pass down for literally generations.
All right, let's move into section 1, 3 core literary devices.
So now that we know why these tools are absolutely crucial, we're going to look really closely at 3 specific flavors an author adds to their text. First up is imagery. Now, I want you to imagine that you are literally painting a picture. But instead of using a brush and colors, you're using words. That is exactly what imagery is. It's descriptive language that appeals directly to your 5 senses: sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch. When an author uses imagery the right way, they aren't just telling you what's happening, they are pulling you right into the scene, helping you picture and feel the world exactly like the characters do. Let's look at this sentence. The warm bread smelled of butter and herbs, making my mouth water before I even sat down. Just listen to those words. The author didn't just casually say, the bread was good. No way. They appealed directly to our sense of smell with butter and herbs, and our sense of taste with making my mouth water. You can almost smell that warm bread right this second, can't you? That is the incredible sensory power of imagery in action. Okay, moving right along to our second tool, symbolism. So if imagery is all about the senses, symbolism is all about the mind. Symbolism happens when an object, a character, or even a specific event represents a much larger, abstract idea. It's like a hidden layer of meaning resting right beneath the surface of the text. It totally rewards the careful reader, turning everyday items into these heavy carriers of the author's deepest themes. Now, what's really interesting here is how this works in practice. Imagine you're reading a story, and the author keeps mentioning this broken clock sitting on a shelf. Well, it's probably not just there for interior decoration. That simple, everyday object transforms into a profound idea. It might symbolize lost time, or maybe a character's inability to move on from the past, or even missed opportunities. Suddenly, a basic piece of furniture is this huge emotional statement. And that brings us to our third core device, foreshadowing. Ooh, this is the one that keeps you turning those pages way late into the night. Foreshadowing is when the author drops these really subtle hints and clues about what's going to happen later on in the story. Think of it like a little trail of breadcrumbs left by the writer. It hooks you, plants a seed of anticipation, and slowly builds up this delicious sense of tension. For example, take a character nervously checking the lock on their door right before bed. As a reader, when you spot that, your heart rate might pick up just a little bit. Like, why are they so nervous? What's out there in the dark? Noticing a tiny detail like a locked door completely changes how you feel about the next chapter, doesn't it? It makes you lean in. The author's hinting that danger is coming, using foreshadowing to basically guarantee you are not putting that book down. So, let's shift gears a bit. Section 2, analyzing the author's choices. All right, we've explored the what and the why, so let's tackle the how. It is time to transition from being just passive consumers of a story to becoming active, sharp-eyed literary detectives. And we have a super simple 2-step process you can use for your homework or anytime you open a book. Step 1, look for patterns in the text. Are there recurring colors, unusual objects, maybe a weird obsession with the weather? And step 2, ask the golden question. This takes all that abstract rating and turns it into a clear, actionable procedure. The absolute crucial point here is remembering to ask this golden question. Why would the author use this? Seriously, whenever you spot a pattern or a weird detail, like why did they spend a whole paragraph on a broken clock? Why check the lock 3 times? Authors don't waste words. Asking why is your master key to unlocking the hidden depth of the whole story. Let's apply this real quick. Say you're reading and a dark, rumbling storm rolls in right before a massive event in the plot. You stop and ask, okay, why did the author put a storm here? Well, they're connecting ideas. The storm isn't just bad weather. Asking that question uncovers the underlying symbolism and foreshadowing of the entire scene. It symbolizes emotional tension and hints at some serious trouble about to strike our heroes.
All right, moving to our final part. Section 3, Education Powered by Morality.
Now, as we wrap up all this literary analysis, I want to take a quick moment to pivot from the craft of writing to something even bigger, the craft of living. Being able to dissect a book is an awesome skill, but how we apply our minds to the real world matters so much more. The source material from the Academy Godly Learner series outlines a really interesting core philosophy here. It points out that simply being smart enough to spot literary devices just isn't enough on its own. In fact, education without morality can actually hurt. Think about it. What's the point of being highly intelligent and educated if a person just keeps making bad choices that hurt themselves or other people? The idea is that true, profound education requires pairing your growing intelligence with biblical morality, ensuring that your bright mind is always guided by a good heart. And there's a really comforting promise that goes along with this. Romans chapter 8, verses 6 and 7 promises peace of mind to everyone who keeps his or her mind spiritual. The takeaway is that when you combine your hard-earned learning, your ability to read, analyze, and figure out complex things, with a spiritual and moral mindset, it leads to genuine peace and a deeply fulfilling life. It's about making your education truly meaningful. So I want to leave you with this final, exciting mission for the day. What literary device are you going to find in your reading today? Now that you have the tools and you totally understand imagery, symbolism, and foreshadowing, I invite you to apply what you've just mastered. Grab your current book, put on your literary detective hat, and see what wonderful spices the author has waiting for you. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep reading and keep learning.